Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive? Today we are talking all about remembering what we study.
Oh, yeah, remembering what you study. It's something we all struggle with sometimes.
Absolutely. Like, how many times have you crammed for a test
Oh, too many, too many.
only to forget everything the next day?
So frustrating.
Yeah.
But the good news is that memory, it's not just some passive thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an active process that we can actually get better at.
So you're saying we can train our brains to remember more.
Exactly. It's kind of like training a muscle.
So how do we get started with this brain workout?
Well, first it helps to understand the basics.
Okay, so back to school.
Kinda, but not in a boring way, I promise.
Okay, I'm listening.
So imagine you're trying to learn a new language.
Okay, I can picture that.
You can't just stare at words and hope they magically stick in your brain, right?
Nope, definitely not.
You have to decode their meaning and then find a way to store that info so you can access it later.
It's like our brain has its own internal translator for new info.
Exactly. That's what we call encoding, taking in info and converting it into a form our brains understand.
Okay, encoding, got it. What happens next?
Then comes storage, which is all about organizing and filing that info away in different parts of our brain.
Like a giant filing cabinet.
Pretty much. And finally, there's retrieval, which is like searching for and accessing those memories when we need them.
Retrieval, oh yeah, I remember that moment.
Exact.
Gotcha. Encoding, storing, retrieving.
You got it. The 3 pillars of memory. And here's the cool part, we can actually upgrade those processes.
Like make them more efficient.
Absolutely, there are tons of techniques out there.
Cool. Spill the beans. What are some of your favorites?
One that's super effective is visualization.
Visualization. Like daydreaming.
Kinda, it's about using your mind's eye to create vivid mental images.
Like treating a movie in your head.
Exactly, you're basically making the info more memorable.
So instead of just memorizing dates, I should try to create a memorable scene around them.
Exactly. Let's say you're trying to learn about a historical event.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Instead of just memorizing the year, imagine yourself transported back in time.
Whoa, time travel.
Right. Engage all your senses. What do you see, hear, smell, feel?
Wow, that would definitely make it more memorable.
The more vivid the experience, the stronger the memory.
I love this. It's almost like tricking your brain into thinking it's actually experiencing something.
It totally is.
This is blowing my mind. Okay, what other tricks do we have up our sleeve?
All right, here's another one that aligns with how our brains naturally learn. Bite-sized chunks.
Bite-sized chunks, so like snacking on info.
Exactly. Think about it. When you eat a meal, do you shove the whole plate in your mouth at once?
No, unless it's like a really good dessert.
Haha, that's very fair enough.
Mm-mm.
But when it comes to learning, it's better to savor the information in smaller bites.
Okay, so slow down and break it down.
Exactly. Don't try to cram a whole chapter.
That never ends well.
Nope. Break it down into sections and focus on one piece at a time.
Makes sense. I always feel so overwhelmed when I try to learn too much at once.
Right. It's like your brain just shuts down.
It's like information overload.
It totally is. And that's where those smart breaks come in.
Ah, yes. The breaks. So we're not just talking about mindless scrolling, are we?
Well, a little bit of that can be okay.
Yeah.
But ideally, you want to engage in activities that help your brain relax.
Okay, so things that help us recharge.
Exactly. Going for a walk, listening to music, or even just closing your eyes for a few minutes.
I like the sound of that.
Little things can make a big difference.
Definitely. Especially if it means I can actually remember what I'm studying.
Exactly. So you're ready for another technique?
Bring it on. I'm feeling like a memory master already. What about this memory palace thing I've heard about?
The memory palace. It's a classic.
It sounds super cool, but I've never really understood how it works.
It leverages our natural spatial memory, our ability to remember locations and navigate spaces.
Like our internal GPS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you imagine a familiar place like your home.
Okay, I can picture my apartment.
Perfect. And you place the information you want to remember in specific locations within that space.
So like creating a mental map, using a place I already know.
You got it. For example, let's say you're trying to remember a grocery list.
Okay, milk, eggs, bread.
As you walk through your mental memory palace, you might imagine a carton of milk on your doorstep,
Okay, milk by the door,
then a loaf of bread on the kitchen table,
bread on the table, check.
and maybe a bunch of bananas hanging from the chandelier.
Oh, bananas hanging from the chandelier. Now that's an image I won't forget. The more absurd, the better.
Absolutely. The key is to make those mental images vivid, unusual, and memorable.
Okay, I'm getting the hang of this. So I can revisit my memory palace anytime.
Exactly. You can go back as often as you need to strengthen those connections and make the info stick.
This is incredible. I'm already picturing my own memory palace. It's going to be epic.
Have fun with it. The more creative you are, the better.
Okay, so we've got visualization, bite-sized chunks,
Ah.
smart breaks, memory palaces. What about our other senses? Can I sniff my way to better recall?
Yeah. Actually, you can. The sense of smell is incredibly powerful.
Oh yeah, certain smells definitely trigger memories for me.
Exactly. Think about it. A particular scent can instantly transport you back to a specific time or place.
Oh, totally. Like the smell of freshly baked bread always reminds me of my grandma's kitchen.
There you go. That's the power of scent-based memory cues.
So I could study with a certain scent, then try smelling it again during a test.
Exactly. It's like creating a secret weapon for your memory.
This is brilliant. I'm going to stock up on essential oils right now. What kind of scents are best?
Subtle scents are the way to go. You don't want to be overwhelmed.
Okay, got it. Subtle scents for the win. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We are.
But before we move on, I have to ask about sleep.
Ah, yes. Sleep, the unsung hero of memory.
So those all-nighters before a big test are actually a bad idea.
They really are. It's much more effective to get a good night's sleep.
I knew it. So how much sleep do we really need?
Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night.
7 to 9? Easier said than done sometimes.
I know. But trust me, it's worth it. Your brain needs that time to process and store all that information.
Okay, I'm convinced. I'll try my best. Any tips for actually falling asleep? Sometimes my mind just races.
Consistency is key. Try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends.
Okay, sticking to a schedule.
Exactly. And a relaxing bedtime routine can be helpful too.
A nice warm bath and a good book.
Perfect. Anything that helps you wind down.
I like it. Maybe I'll add a lavender diffuser to the mix.
There you go. Creating a calming environment is key.
Okay, so we've got visualization, bite-sized chunks, smart breaks, memory palaces, set-based cues. Andy, enough sleep. What else can we add to our memory-boosting toolkit?
How about this? Try talking to yourself.
Wait, hold on. Talking to myself. Isn't that a sign of,
I know it might sound strange, but it can actually be super helpful.
Really? So it's not just me muttering to myself in the library?
Not at all. Talking to yourself can help you focus, reinforce your memory, and clarify your thoughts.
Huh, interesting. So it's like having a conversation with my own brain.
Exactly. You're basically helping yourself make sense of the information.
So what's the best way to talk to myself while I'm studying?
There are lots of ways. You could summarize info aloud after reading a passage.
Okay, so like I'm explaining it to someone else.
Exactly. Or even just ask yourself questions about the content.
So I'm both the teacher and the student.
Precisely. The key is to find what feels natural and helps you actively engage with the material.
I love this. Who needs a study buddy when you've got your own inner voice to bounce ideas off of? This is all so fascinating.
It is right. And it leads us to another important point. Personalization.
Personalization, like tailoring my study methods to my own brain.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to learning.
Makes sense. We all have our own quirks, right?
We do. So it's all about finding what works best for you.
Like figuring out my own unique learning style and then going from there.
You got it. Some people are visual learners.
Ah, yes, the visual learners.
Right. They love diagrams and mind maps.
And then there are the auditory learners.
Right. They thrive on lectures and recordings.
And let's not forget the kinesthetic learners.
Of course. They need to move around and get hands-on.
It's like a whole learning personality test.
Haha, kind of. And the best part is you don't have to choose just one technique.
Mix and match.
Exactly. Experiment and find what works best for you.
So the takeaway is don't be afraid to get creative.
Exactly. Have fun with it. Learning should be enjoyable.
I'm all about that. Well, we've covered so much in this first part of our deep dive.
We have, from the basics of memory to some pretty cool techniques.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much more to explore.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the world of memory.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive into remembering what you study. Before we get to even more memory-boosting techniques, I think it's worth circling back to something we touched on earlier.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
The power of personalization.
Right, like figuring out what makes your brain light up and say, aha, I get it.
Exactly. And one aspect of personalization that I think often gets overlooked is the role of our senses.
Our senses. I thought we were talking about brain power here, not like taste buds.
Well, the truth is, our brains, they don't neatly separate thoughts and feelings.
Interesting.
They're intertwined. Think about it. What kinds of memories stick with you the most vividly?
Good point. It's definitely not the stuff I tried to cram for exams. It's the moments that made me laugh or cry or feel a strong sense of wonder.
Exactly. Those emotionally charged experiences, they leave a much deeper imprint on our memories.
So it's like our emotions are sending a signal to our brain saying, hey, this is important, remember this.
Precisely. And this isn't just limited to major life events. We can actually use the power of emotions to enhance our everyday learning.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
One way to do this is by making the learning process itself more enjoyable.
So instead of forcing myself to sit at a desk for hours, I should try to make it more fun.
Exactly. If you're passionate about a subject, that passion will fuel your learning.
Okay, passion, got it. But what if I'm not naturally drawn to a certain topic?
There are still ways to make it engaging.
Okay, how? Spill the beans.
Well, one strategy is to connect the material to your personal interests or experiences.
So like, find ways to make it relevant to my own life.
Exactly. For example, if you're studying history, try to find connections to current events or your family history.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Like bringing the past to life.
Exactly. Another approach is to find creative ways to interact with the material.
Okay, I like where this is going.
If you're a visual learner, create mind maps or diagrams.
I'm a visual person, so that would totally work for me. What about for people who learn best by listening?
If you're more auditory, record yourself explaining concepts or listen to podcasts.
Oh yeah, I do that sometimes. And what about for the hands-on learners? The ones who got to move around?
For kinesthetic learners, find ways to move around while you study or build models to represent the information.
So it's all about finding ways to make it your own.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Try new things.
Exactly. See what sparks your interest.
Learning should be fun.
Absolutely. So remember, we talked about the importance of fueling our brains.
Right, you are what you eat, or something like that.
Well, in this case, you remember what you eat. What we eat and drink, it plays a big role in our cognitive function, including our memory.
So those late night study sessions fueled by pizza and energy drinks might not be the best idea.
They might give you a temporary boost, but they're not giving your brain the nutrients it needs for the long haul.
Okay, so what kind of brain food should we be eating?
Foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and B vitamins are great for your brain.
Things like fish, blueberries, leafy greens, nuts, and seeds.
You got it. And of course, staying hydrated is super important too. Dehydration can really mess with your memory.
Okay, so ditch the sugary drinks and opt for water instead.
Exactly. And speaking of giving your brain a break.
Break time.
Not quite yet. I'm talking about mental breaks. We've already talked about the importance of smart breaks for consolidating learning.
Right, taking time to let the information sink in.
Exactly. But I also want to emphasize the value of mindfulness and meditation.
Mindfulness, isn't that like a trendy buzzword?
It might be trendy, but the benefits are backed by science. When we practice mindfulness, we're training our brains to focus on the present moment.
Okay, so being in the here and now.
Exactly. It's about becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Sounds kind of like meditation.
It is. And meditation has been shown to improve working memory.
Working memory, what's that?
It's the type of memory we use to hold information in our minds while we're using it.
So it's like our brain's RAM.
Exactly. And meditation can help boost that RAM.
Wow, definitely gonna have to try that. But what about those of us who are more social learners, like the folks who thrive in groups?
That's a great question. It leads us to another cool aspect of memory enhancement: the power of social interaction.
Social interaction, so like studying with friends.
That's one way to do it. Our brains are wired for connection, and we learn best when we're interacting with others.
I know, I always remember things better when I've talked about them with someone.
Right. Conversations bring information to life, spark new ideas, and make learning more fun.
So how does that actually boost our memory?
Well, when we engage in discussions, we're forced to think more deeply about the material.
We have to explain it in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. And that helps us understand and remember it better.
So it's like turning information into a shared experience.
Exactly. And there's another benefit to social learning: accountability.
Accountability, like having someone to keep me on track.
Exactly. When we're studying with others, we're more likely to stay motivated.
It's like having a built-in support system.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to formal study groups. Casual conversations can be great learning opportunities too.
Oh yeah, like bouncing ideas off of friends or family.
Precisely. So remember, learning should be a social activity.
It's all about connecting with others and sharing ideas.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. From the importance of our senses to the power of mindfulness and social interaction.
It's all about finding what works for you and making learning an enjoyable experience.
I love that. Well, this has been an amazing journey so far, but I know there's still more to come.
You bet. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore even more advanced techniques and strategies.
I can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive into memory. We've covered so much ground already. From building memory palaces to talking to yourself, it's amazing how much we can actually do to boost our brain power.
It is. And in this final part, I want to touch on something that I think is often overlooked, but it's absolutely crucial for long-term memory: the role of emotions.
Emotions. I thought we were talking about brain power here, not feelings.
Well, the truth is, our brains, they don't really separate thoughts and feelings that well.
Interesting.
They're all connected. Think about it. What are the memories that stick with you the most?
Good point. It's definitely not the stuff I tried to cram for exams. It's the moments that made me laugh or cry or, really feel something.
Exactly. Those emotionally charged experiences, they leave a deeper mark on our memories.
Because they matter more to us.
That's part of it, but there's also a scientific reason. When we experience strong emotions, our brains release these hormones.
Hormones, like adrenaline.
Adrenaline, cortisol, things like that. And those hormones, they actually enhance memory formation.
So it's like our emotions are sending a signal to our brain saying, hey, this is important, remember this.
Exactly. And this isn't just for big life events either. We can actually use this to our advantage when we're learning.
Oh, really? How so?
By making the learning process itself more engaging and enjoyable.
Okay, so instead of forcing myself to study, I should try to find ways to make it fun.
Exactly. If you're passionate about something, you're going to remember it better.
Passion got it. But what if I'm not naturally into the topic I'm studying?
You can still find ways to make it more interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me some ideas.
Well, one way is to connect the material to your own interests or experiences.
So, like, personalize it.
Exactly. For example, if you're studying history, try to find connections to current events or to your own family's past.
Well, that's a cool idea, like making history come alive.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative. If you're a visual learner, use mind maps or diagrams. If you're more auditory, record yourself explaining things or listen to podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
I like those.
And if you're kinesthetic, find ways to move around while you study or build models.
It's like we're turning learning into an art form.
I like that. It's about finding what works for you and having fun with it.
I love this idea of bringing more emotion into learning. It makes so much sense. Well, we've come to the end of our deep dive.
We have, and it's been quite a journey. From memory palaces to emotional connections.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? What do we want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we all have the power to improve our memories. It's not about having some kind of photographic memory. It's about understanding how our brains work and using the right tools.
It's like we've been given this incredible toolbox.
Exactly. And it's filled with all sorts of memory-boosting gadgets.
But it's up to us to use them. Exactly. And remember, this is an ongoing journey. The more we learn about our brains, the more we can unlock their potential.
That's so true. So to all our listeners out there, keep those brains buzzing. Embrace the joy of learning.
And never stop exploring the amazing world of memory.
Until next time, keep diving deep.